Bases dropped on a Overreaction Monday edition of Soccer Down here. Atlanta United won 3-1 yesterday on Decision Day over the New England Revolution. Lots of other Decision Day madness / silliness to get into. Some very surprising results, some expected results, some records were broken, some legends of the league stepped away for the last time. Lots of storylines as MLS regular season ends yesterday afternoon. We know the playoff schedule as well, and there were a few false starts last night. If you were following along, waiting on this announcement to happen, at one point there was a graphic that had the winner of Atlanta and New England playing at 10 p.m. in their second match. I think a few signals were crossed there. But this is what we know at this point. Atlanta, New England will be on October 19th at 3 p.m., and that game is scheduled for Univision. Stay tuned. There could be another broadcast possibility as well. I know it was something that was being explored, so stay tuned on that. Nationally, it will be available on Univision. It will also be available on 92.9 The Game. 3 p.m. on October 19th. The rest of the schedule is this for that first weekend of the playoffs. Playoffs will kick off at noon on the 19th. Toronto FC sneaks into the number 4 spot because DC United could not beat a 9-man FC Cincinnati. Yes, 9. They had 2 red cards, and they still did not give up a goal. It was a scoreless draw. So Toronto gets a goal. Josie Altidore goes out injured, so we'll see how much it costs them. But they get the 4th spot, and they get to host DC United. First game of the playoffs, October 19th at noon. Atlanta and New England kick off at 3 o'clock on the 19th. Seattle and Dallas kick off at 3:30. It's a 12:30 local kick for the Sounders. That's on FS1. The Toronto match is also on Univision. Real Salt Lake and Portland, and I believe this was at the request of RSL to move the game from the 20th to the 19th. Problem is, now it's a 10 o'clock Eastern start, and it's on ESPN News. Not the greatest of TV spots to be, but when you have to move it into this spot, this is what's available, because most of the national spots, time slots, were set up for the 20th, which will see Philadelphia host the New York Red Bulls at 3 o'clock on FS1, and Minnesota United hosting the LA Galaxy, who lost again to a team that's not going to the playoffs and gave up 4 goals in the process. They have to go on the road now to Allianz and play the Loons. 8:30 on the 20th on ESPN. New York City's first match in the playoffs, they will host the winner of Toronto and DC. That's on the 23rd at 7 o'clock. And then the rest of the games are from there. LAFC is on the 24th at 10:30 Eastern. The winner of Atlanta and New England will play on the 24th at 7:30 Eastern. So Atlanta would go from a Saturday game, and if they get past it or New England goes into the spot, they'll play on Thursday. They'll play the winner of the Philadelphia Red Bulls match that takes place on Sunday. For once, Atlanta might actually get a little bit more rest than the opponent. That's not happened much this season. That's what the playoff bracket looks like. How did we get there from Atlanta? Let's hear a little bit of what the call sounded like on 92.9 The Game. This is the opener very early from Darlington Nagbe.
Free kick, 40 yards from goal, sending it down the middle to Joseph. Joseph now to Gressel, right attacking third. Gressel with a cross to the spot. Nagbe shot. Score! Less than 3 minutes into the match. has got the 1-0 lead.
It's a late run from Darlington Nagbe. Julian Gressel, nice patience out on the wing instead of just whipping one in to see what happens. Joseph Martinez was in a really good spot and actually got the whole sequence started. He picked up a secondary assist, and it looked like Gressel might have been trying to pick him out with the pass, but Nagbe comes streaking in, gets a touch, puts it past Matt Turner, and Atlanta gets the early lead. Well, New England didn't blink. Christian Pania pushed a shot wide after a great save from Brad Gazan a couple minutes after the goal. Pania equalized in the 8th minute.
Goal kick is knocked out for a New England throw in the far corner. Volleyed forward by Andrew Farrell into the midfield. Over the head of Bunbury, but it's flicked by Escobar to a wide-open Pania, who breaks in, shoots, and scores. Huge error by Escobar, and New England has equalized in the 8th minute.
Escobar gets caught in a 1v1 with Bunbury, and the final touch either comes off one of them and falls to Pania. Pania's speed was a problem throughout the match. Second half, Atlanta dealt with it much better. Franco Escobar had an outstanding second 45 minutes. And early in the second half, who else?
Barco takes a touch and passes off to the right now to Gressel. Gressel long diagonal up to Joseph in behind De La Mea. Joseph at the top of the 18, dribbles in, shot, score! Welcome back, Joseph Martinez, his 27th goal of the year, and Atlanta United back in front.
What a ball from Julian Gressel to set up Joseph on that one, and then Julian gets in on the act, scoring maybe the best goal of his professional career to make it 3-1.
Barco to Joseph at the top of the 6, doesn't get through. Gressel's drive, score! Golazo! WrestleMania's running wild on you, brother. A man-of-the-match performance. A goal and 2 assists. 3-1 Atlanta United.
Gressel caught that so sweetly off the hop. Struck it as hard as he possibly could and kept it low. It's just a screamer that Matt Turner has no chance to get off the far post. Beautiful goal from Gressel. That makes it 3-1. New England created some chances after that. They hit the crossbar. They really weren't able to regain control of the match in the second half, and Atlanta sees it out to move into second place in the Eastern Conference.
It's 3-1 Atlanta. Sent to the penalty spot, and it's flicked wide to the back post and out, and that gets us to full time. Atlanta United finishes the regular season second in the East. And they will meet the New England Revolution again in this building 13 days from now in the first round of the playoffs.
New England comes back for the first round of the playoffs. I don't think that's exactly what the Revolution were looking for. I'll be really curious to see how Bruce Arena approaches it. I think he has a couple of options. You saw yesterday the most attack-minded option. It's pretty much the same idea that took them to a win over NYC at Gillette Stadium the week prior. You want to get forward down the right side with Brandon Bai. Jalil Anibaba is going to stay at home. Christian Pania pushes up very high. Carlos Heal's in a very free role. He can tuck inside because of Bai bombing down the right side. And it's a 4-4-2 empty bucket that really morphs into a few different things. Very dangerous from an attacking perspective. And I thought New England looked really good playing direct in the first half, looked really good when they were able to find Carlos Heel in dangerous spots. Gustavo Bo wasn't too effective on Sunday, which is a little bit of a surprise. But the alternative for Bruce Arena, I don't know if his defense is quite strong enough to pull it off, but he could go defend and counter and play a line of 5, which really wouldn't require a whole lot of moves. You could keep, honestly, the same 11 if you wanted to, and move Luis Caicedo, over to the left wing back role. You could play Christian Pania as a left wing back, but you just know he's going to bomb forward, and he's not going to really sit back and defend much. There's a few different ways you could go with this. You have Michael Mancian, who is a very expensive substitute right now. Do you return to him? Do you give him a starting spot and move Anibaba over to the left wing back role? Is that where they want to go? Does that give them the best chance? New England's not a very strong defensive team. They have a very good attack. And if you're going to bring someone else in to be more defensive, you're probably going to have to sacrifice one of Bo, Heel, Bunbury, Pania. Those are 4 of your best players. Those probably are your 4 best players. Do you want to pull any one of them to try to get more defensive with a weaker player? That's a difficult spot to be in if you're Bruce Arena. I don't know if there's an easy solution for them. I think the flip side, and I know there was a lot of concern about the chances New England created, the flip side is Atlanta created a ton of chances. 11 shots in the first half. Matt Turner had to make a number of saves. Matt Turner's had to do that a lot for New England, and really Matt Turner's form has been a huge part of what has made New England such a difficult team to beat in the second half of the year. That was their first loss since August 3rd. And their 3 losses since Bruce Arena took over: to Atlanta, to NYC at Yankee Stadium, and at home to LAFC. The 3 best teams in MLS. That's the only teams New England's lost to. Now, it's nice to be one of those teams if you're Atlanta, because now you get the chance to host New England again. You've already beaten them in a straight-up match. That was New England's, I think, best way to play. That was Atlanta's best way to play. What can change to be better for New England in a playoff match? That's the question Bruce Arena is going to be asking himself over these next couple of weeks. I really, think he could go to the defend and counter and try to take it to extra time. I don't think they're a stronger team that way, but maybe they're able to just frustrate Atlanta's attack, get numbers behind the ball, and not be able to be broken down. And then Matt Turner has to have one of those games too, because that's really what it's been. When you look at some of the numbers of expected goals New England has given up in the run of play and how many goals they've actually given up, a lot of that's down to Matt Turner. It's also down to great emergency defending. I think Andrew Farrell had a few just brilliant moments yesterday on Joseph Martinez, where he's getting handshakes and slaps on the back from Joseph because they were such strong plays from Farrell. I just don't know if New England can really do a lot more than they did yesterday. Atlanta has to take care of business. They have to be better in the first 45. That game was too open in the first 45. I don't expect a playoff game to be that way, but I think Atlanta now feels like when they see this team in a couple of weeks, they know where the weaknesses are, they know what to be concerned with, and they can be even better prepared to deal with Heel and Bo and Bunbury, and especially Christian Pania and his speed down the left, one of the fastest players in the league. I'm going to take a quick break. John's going to join us in the next segment. We've got some clips from the locker room after the match. I want to hear from some of the players after Atlanta's 3-1 win over New England. We'll recap that. We'll recap all of Decision Day right after this.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. October 7th. Getting ready for the postseason in MLS. What a wild decision day. Keeping up with everything that was going on from the booth, looking over at the Western Conference especially. The LA Galaxy were in a great spot to be very high in the Western Conference table and then gave up 4 goals to the Houston Dynamo and now have to go on the road in the postseason. The Galaxy and DC United are probably the 2 teams that had the worst decision day. Just unbelievable they couldn't get it done. Going back to the Twitter timeline, and you can join in using the Overreaction Monday hashtag. Tweet at us at Soccer Down here. Lots of conversation yesterday, as expected, about what the roster is going to look like next year. And that's definitely a worthy conversation. Don't let it distract you from what's going on right now, though. Don't let it distract you from some of the moments that you're seeing. My buddy Mike Conti tweeted this yesterday. Atlanta United earned the most points by a defending champion in MLS history yesterday. They beat the post-shootout era, or the post-shootout record that was 2010 RSL. They beat that. They tied DC United's record from the shootout era of 58 points in 1998. It's just really difficult to do what Atlanta's done this year and be as good as they have been. I know the expectations are even more. And that's a good thing. It's going to push this club forward, but don't let that distract you from the accomplishment that it was. You won an Open Cup. You won a Campeones Cup. You had a consecutive shutout wins record. You had a record goal-scoring streak from Joseph. You were in the top 3 for the Supporter Shield. You were number 3. You led the league in attendance, which I think gets taken for granted, but is still just mind-blowing when you really get into it. And it's not over yet. When you look at this postseason, I think that Atlanta has as good of a shot as anyone else going into the postseason. NYC has some injury issues. Glenn Crooks, friend of the show, radio broadcaster for New York City, tweeted it yesterday. Ismail Tajori-Shradi and Eber limping out of the locker room. Doesn't look good for the Pigeons. Now, they're going to have time to recover, but that's not good at all. Keaton Parks wasn't in the 18 yesterday, dealing with a hamstring injury. James Sands was in the 18, didn't start. NYC's not 100% right now. Feels like Atlanta's as close to 100% as you can be. LAFC did get the win yesterday over Colorado. That ended the Rapids playoff dreams. But LAFC hasn't been the same LAFC at the end of the season. And Adama Diomande, don't know if he's going to be back or what he's going to be able to give you when he's back, because they're not the same with Diego Rossi playing the number 9 than they were with Diomande there, Rossi on the wing. It's just not the same team. Matt Doyle did a ranking of the playoff teams by tier. He says LAFC is still the favorites. They're in tier 1 by themselves. Tier 2, the contenders, NYC, Atlanta, that's next. I would agree. I mean, those are your best 3 teams in the league. Those are your top 3 contenders. That's very fair. Tier 3, according to Doyle, the Pack. Philadelphia is next. I would put them there, but I think my question is Shabilko, if he's there and he had an injury and was pulled out of the lineup at the last minute, if he's there, Philadelphia could be in that next group. If he's not, they're not there. I think Minnesota can be in that next group. And I think the loss to Seattle is maybe being taken a little bit too harshly. I think Minnesota is a contender. Even though they fell to 4, I still think they're a contender because Minnesota hasn't lost to LAFC this year. And they play the Galaxy. Neither one of those teams has lost to LAFC this year. That's the matchup. It's going to be LAFC against one of them. Doyle has Seattle in Tier 3. It's down to Nicholas Lodero's health. That's the thing for me. If he's healthy, they're going to be difficult. They can be a team that can go to MLS Cup. I don't think they're quite good enough, but Lodero can carry them to it. Doyle has the LA Galaxy in Tier 3. I disagree with that completely. They gave up 8 goals to Vancouver and Houston. You can't put them there, even if it's Zlatan. Zlatan can't score 9 goals in those games because he didn't against 2 bad defenses. So if that's what you're relying on, it's just not going to work. I'm sorry. It's just not good enough. Pavone and Zlatan can punish you if you don't score your goals, but you're going to have all kinds of opportunities to score goals. Also, DC United and Toronto are in this tier, and I feel like Tier 3, maybe in the way that Doyle structured it, is a little bit too big because the Galaxy, DC, and Toronto should not be in the same spot as Seattle, Minnesota, Philadelphia. I feel like there's a clear break between those. Toronto would be the one out of that next group that I worry about the most. Portland, if they had been somewhat convincing, just a little convincing in the end of the season, just a little bit, I would have Portland in this. But Doyle makes a really good point. They're probably going to be on the road for the whole postseason because they fell all the way down to the 6th spot. That's going to give them license to do what they do pretty well. Defend with numbers and counter. And that's it. Just very simple. Sit back, defend, look to get out on the break, look for Valeri, Blanco, Abobasi to make magic happen, and Dyrone Asprilla. Maybe Dyrone Asprilla becomes the wild card with this group. If they can do that, they're not going to be an easy team to beat, but they're not convincing at all. I would put Toronto and Portland ahead of DC and the Galaxy at this point by a pretty wide margin. RSL and Red Bulls are in the underdog category for Doyle. Can't really argue it. I think that's a little harsh on RSL. I'd maybe move them up into that next tier for me, along with Portland and Toronto. I'd maybe put RSL in between the two. Red Bulls are in the underdog category for Doyle. It's hard to argue that. Losing 3-0 at Montreal on decision day is a pretty bad way to limp into the playoffs. They haven't looked convincing either. And Dallas is in the long shot category along with New England, and I think those are fair. It's going to be an interesting playoff. I said 7 teams on last Wednesday had a shot to win this thing. I might narrow that down to 5 or 6 now. I think it's the top 2 in the East for sure. I think it's LAFC. I would still keep Philadelphia in that group, but with an asterisk about Shabilko's health and about Alejandro Bedoya's health. Let's not forget he missed with a quad strain, and quad strains usually don't go away in a couple weeks. So I'm a little skeptical of that timeline. So if you don't have either one of them, then the asterisk kicks them down a notch. But if they're available and they're close to 100%, I'll put them in that group. So that gets you to 4. Out west, I still think Minnesota is a team that can win MLS Cup. They would be 5. I had an asterisk by Seattle about Nicholas Lodero, and I think I still want to keep it there. I'm just not 100% convinced that they can be the ones that can do this. And the Galaxy, I had potentially in that group, and I can't believe anything about the Galaxy after giving up the amount of goals they've given up here lately. So I would narrow it down to 5, maybe 6. With Seattle and Philadelphia, large asterisks by them. I think the 4 best teams going into the postseason, the 2 in the West are Minnesota and LAFC, and the 2 in the East are Atlanta and New York City. And Philadelphia and Seattle are right there behind them with big question marks. See how this goes. Let's see if John's done cutting audio.
He is, and I agree with you that I'm looking at maybe 5.5 teams that would be my thoughts for MLS Cup. LAFC, obviously, NYCFC, and then Atlanta United. I had Philadelphia as a part of that group, so that puts me at 4. Minnesota I had at 5, and I guess Seattle for me was the half because I was looking at the health of Nico Lodeiro. And then maybe Toronto would be a part of that discussion from that grouping that is there, that where they're in the same grouping with the Galaxy and DC United. I agree with you. I'm not a fan of having Toronto in that same group. I had with DC and what they weren't able to do, and LA Galaxy and what they haven't been able to do. I just have them lower on the scale than I do Toronto right now by default. Portland might be another half. So I guess it's what? 4 fulls and 2 halves.
Of all your halves and points and I don't know. Who are your 4 favorites?
4 favorites would be LAFC and the 3 in the East.
Okay, so you don't have Minnesota in that. You've got Philadelphia in that instead of Minnesota. From what
and it was tight. It was tight to come up with that, but I'm looking at seeding possibilities and things like that. So yeah, that would be my 3, with Minnesota being my 5th of 4.
That's not how it works, John.
New math.
No,
2 + 2 is 5.
we don't believe in new math on this show. We do believe in Julian Gressel having a man of the match performance yesterday, and here's what he had to say after the match.
You guys get the 2 seed last year. You get the 2 seed again this year. How different does it feel though for you guys this time around, heading into the playoffs, getting that 2 seed?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously last year ended on a pretty big low, and then now this year it's a different feeling about it for sure. But hopefully it'll do as well again, and we'll have the same outcome at the end of it. But I thought today you can see the maturity of the team it's there, going into the playoffs. I think earlier in the years maybe going down one or them equalizing 1-1, after just a short amount of time where we go up 1-0. Sometimes, we had games before where we didn't really play well again after that, and today I think we really came out of the half and played well in the second half, deserved to win, made sure that we won the game, no doubts about that with the performance, and I think that just shows in the maturity level of the team and where we're at heading into the playoffs.
A couple things that Julian touched on there before we get another one. Number 2 this year feels different than number 2 last year. In what way to you?
I look at the number of games that Atlanta United has played this year. What was the win-loss number from all the matches this year?
Well, they've played 44 now.
Right.
And they'll play 45, and I believe, if I remember correctly, they have won 26 of their
26, 14, and 4?
Something like that. Yeah, that sounds right.
And with everything that the team has gone through, new coach, CONCACAF Champions League, all the injuries, everything that has, been there, schedule compression, you name it. And for them to go 26, 14, and 4 with this run of games, to me, it's really, you have to trumpet that as something. I mean, I would use the word amazing when you stand back and think about it a little bit. What they were able to do with all of these obstacles and all these different things thrown at them this season, to do that in multiple competitions, coming through multiple trophies, getting this accomplished. I mean, it's been an absolute, it wasn't a work of art the entire way through, but it was tremendous effort for a first-year club, first-year team with a first-year coach is what I'm saying. Not a first-year team, but first-year team under Frank DeBoer with the philosophy change and all that kind of stuff. Last year, it was another year under Tata Martino, and things were building, and you thought that there was something that was going to be there. And being at the last match of the year was, I think, an expectation by everybody. It's an expectation this year as well. But just having to go through all the different hoops for me, it has a different vibe to it. It was methodical last year, working toward a conclusion. This year, you had to go through a lot more hoops and a lot more trouble and a lot more matches to get to this point. So it was satisfying, but in an entirely different way in getting to the playoffs.
I'm gonna disagree a little bit because I think you're looking at it in some ways from what it looked like going into the season last year. And I would disagree that the MLS Cup was the expectation last year. I think midway to three-quarters of the way through, yes, it was. But at the beginning, I think coming out of 17 into year 2 of Tata Martino, I don't know if it was. I think it became it. And then I think the difference this year is that it was from day one, and now it is, but not the same as it was last year. So it's such a weird comparison because you're in the same spot, but last year you got there because you failed on decision day and didn't win the Supporters' Shield and looked really bad in doing it. And you were very concerned going into the postseason because of that loss and because of the loss at Red Bull Arena about a month prior. This year, you had concerns at the same time of year because of a couple of losses at Yankee Stadium, at home to Columbus. But then you win on decision day to get into this second spot. You actually had a spot that you had an opportunity, and you were in the second spot in 2017 as well on decision day. But then the late goal from Giovinco, I can't remember if that took you out of the second or the third, but you were in the second at least some point on decision day in 2017. So you've had a chance to be there every time. You've been there twice. It's weird because you win on decision day for the first time, so you go in with momentum, but I think it's fair to say, and not just because of the recent result, that on the whole, NYC is probably the team that is more favored here out of the East. And that's okay. They're very good. And they've got home field advantage. They probably should be favored. But Atlanta comes in finally healthy, which is crazy the way this year has gone. And NYC is the one with all of the injury questions going into this international break. Mitrita was another one. He's going off on international duty with Romania, and he had some kind of, I can't remember how it was described. It was kind of awkward, like something in his midsection. And he wasn't in the team yesterday. So they're going to sit and watch the first round of games, and they're going to play a team on short rest, but they're also going to go into that game having not played since October 6th, and some of their players having not played since September 29th. About a month later, they're going to be in a knockout game. That could be very tricky for New York City. And Atlanta goes in, on the flip side, healthy for the first time really all year, without any major, outside of Breck Shea. Outside of that, you're pretty good. And you're going into the postseason after a win, after a good win, after a really good second half. I think in a lot of ways, Atlanta's playing with house money. And then on the flip side, in a lot of ways, the expectation is that Atlanta wins MLS Cup. That's the world that Atlanta United's in now, isn't it? Being a big club. Where if this was, let's put Minnesota in Atlanta's shoes, and Minnesota won the Open Cup, and Minnesota had the results that Atlanta's had down the stretch, and they get to second in the West, better than where they are now, you wouldn't have the same expectations about Minnesota winning and be like, oh, we're really excited about the postseason. We're happy. It's a good road. This could be a lot of fun. But it's not the, if they don't win it, it's a failure idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And with Atlanta, I don't really know where it is at this point. It's kind of interesting because I think that was the case at one point, that they have to win MLS Cup or the year's a disaster. I think we've gotten past that, but I don't know what the vibe is.
Well, because for me, the way that I look at it, it's been a great season so far with 2 trophies to add to the trophy case. And I'm kind of and I'm agreeing with you here. It's like, I don't know what the vibe is heading in, because if you've got 2, you're coming in as a 2 seed on an upswing, and things, they're kind of lining up for you one way or another, with the NYCFC not playing with injuries and you're coming in healthy and all this kind of stuff. So I don't know if the vibe is just, all right, if we take care of our business and then let everyone else, freak out and worry about what they're having to do, then we're just going to do our thing and then everything else falls down and it is where it is. But no, I think you've got a point where, with everything coming into the postseason here, with everything that you've already accomplished, knowing that there are certain things that you're going to be doing already, is this a house money postseason? I think that's the question.
Ricky Ricardo chimes in and says the reason that the second seed feels different this year is because we were chasing the Shield and a record, and when it ended, we had to settle for the second seed. This year, the Shield wasn't really on the table with LAFC, and we earned it on the last day, the second seed. Ricky said, we also had Joseph back from injury, unlike last year, not having Miguel Almiron. Yeah, there's so many things. You're in the same spot, but it's so different, the route to it and the feeling coming out of it. I'd love to hear from you guys listening, and whether you're listening live with us right now or you're listening later, tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. What are your postseason expectations? Has it just been a great year and you want to see where it goes? Do they have to get to MLS Cup for it to be a good year for you? Has it already been a good year? Because these are the times where I feel like the general expectations from a fan base get defined, as you put a few years on your club and you kind of know where you're at. And it's been interesting talking to people both locally and around the nation and honestly around the world about what they think of Atlanta, the Atlanta fan base, the expectations, how big of a club is it, all those kinds of things. When you are a big club, and what was it Alexi Lalas said last year? Atlanta had to win MLS Cup to be a super club. They won it, so they're a super club. All right, so you're a super club. If you're a super club in MLS, okay, you're a super club in this league. That's fine. When you're a super club, you have different expectations than other clubs. Now, have they met those expectations? Or can they meet them? Or what do they have to do to meet them? That's where I'm kind of wondering. So please tweet at us. Let us know. And there's not a right answer here, by the way. These are the things that are kind of figuring this out. So I'd love to hear from y'all about that. Let's hear one more from Julian Gressel from yesterday after the match.
It felt amazing. I was just like, oh, this is bouncing nicely. I just got to have a hit here. So I just, drop kick, and it came off like I said, really nice. And first I thought it was going to bounce out. It took forever to go from one post to the other side netting, but it was a good strike.
That's the kind of goal that when you hit it, for those of you who play golf, and when everything just goes right in your swing and you crush one off the tee, and you just get that feeling like, oh, what did I just do? That's how that goal is, because it hops up so nice. He catches it in the perfect spot. And when you hit it that way and you're able to stay over it and keep it low, you can hit that ball as hard as you want to, and it's going in a straight line. It was just an amazing strike. I think it's his best goal in an Atlanta United kit. I think it's that good, and it is a great moment. It was a great exclamation mark to get it to 3-1.
I did not hear the goal calls in the first segment. Did you get a Lorenowitz woohoo out of that one?
No,
too?
It was so fast. I mean, it wasn't like the Lorenowitz one that was further out. This one was just such a rocket. Yeah, it was impossible to even get that going on it. It was such a rocket. We've got a couple more post-match comments from Miles Robinson and Michael Parkhurst, but we're going to hold those. We're going to take a quick break. Tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. Let us know your thoughts on expectations. Let us know your thoughts coming out of Decision Day, your thoughts on the rest of the playoff picture. If you want to give some predictions, hey, we'll take some predictions. It's an Overreaction Monday. We'll take it wherever you guys want, but we're going to take a quick break and come back right after this.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
Final segment, hour number 1, October 7th, Overreaction Monday here on SDH. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening live. Thanks for tweeting at us. We'll get back to the timeline in just a bit. But the man of the hour yesterday was Michael Parkhurst. He was obviously everyone's man of the match, as he should be. Great ceremony for Parky after the match as well. Very cool to hear, not just from his teammates, but from people from all over the league and the respect that they have for Michael Parkhurst. This is what Michael had to say after the match.
Well, I mean, how did it make you feel,
Yeah,
though?
I mean, of course, it feels nice. I mean, I think that, I can feel the love from the teammates, the respect, they wanted to play well today, make sure that I got on the field. So, I appreciate that. It was a special day, and, getting into the game and being able to play in front of the fans again was even more special.
Yeah, it was a special moment. I think, and I'm not 100% sure, but when the crowd was chanting for Parkhurst very, very loudly, I think I caught a shot of Parky smiling and almost getting a little emotional on the field as that was going on. Luckily, he didn't have a whole lot to do in the match. It was pretty much done as a contest at this point. But, yeah, I'm pretty sure it got to him a little bit. And he's not a guy who shows a ton of emotion on the field. But, yeah, I think he was moved by the fans' reaction to him.
Well, and the moment when Joseph scores and goes and bows before the captain, I mean, that if that didn't get you, I don't know what will. And the team posted a reverse angle photo of that particular moment. We saw it from the TV side, but Atlanta United posted a photo from the flip side from behind the goal, and the look on Parky's face as Joseph takes a knee, it was when I'm just going to go ahead and say it. When that comes out as an available for print purchase, that's going up in the office.
Yeah, that was something that had been worked out. Joseph told Michael that he was going to do that. So it wasn't completely by surprise, but it's still such a huge moment. The amount of respect that Joseph has for Parkey and the rest of the squad too, but Joseph showing it so publicly in a few different ways. The tweet after Parkhurst's retirement announcement, and then this in a moment where it's a big goal for Joseph coming back from the injury. There was a lot of concern about him, and he gives that moment to Parkhurst. It was very, very cool. One thing that we talked about was the second half and how Atlanta was much better in the second half. A big part of that was Miles Robinson, and here's what he had to say about the adjustments going into the second 45.
It seemed a bit nervy for the back line for a bit, but it looks like you all adjusted out of that. How did things change after halftime?
Oh, yeah, it's just about, adjusting when you get out there and, reading the game as you're playing. But I think we adjusted well. Obviously, I think their chances and their goal could have been, couldn't have not happened, but it happened. So it's good that we got 3 goals. So.
Yeah, Miles was pretty steady as usual. I thought Franco Escobar, and nothing dramatically tactically led to it. I think Escobar was just better in the second 45 after a really shaky first half.
And when you look at that back line, it was the point that you were going over with Mike yesterday, that the first 45, I think it was a little more wide open than a lot of folks would have liked, and it seemed like everybody was wanting to run from one end to the other, and it was tough at points. Keeping track, Brad had to make a big save in the first 45 as well, but I think that things clamped down in the second 45, and Miles and Franco were a big part of that. But yeah, it seemed like defensively, after the discussion at the break, they pretty much figured out how they wanted to attack things. There were still moments for New England, but for the most part, it was clamped down in that second 45 minutes.
Yeah, when you look back at the key passes and when they occurred, half of New England's chances created came after it was 3-1. The opening segment to the second half was where Atlanta was at their best, getting the 2 goals and playing really, really well in the first 15 minutes. They put the game away there. And so many times this season, it's felt like Atlanta could have used one more goal to be able to loosen up a little bit, to be able to, just seal the result. This was the one where they got it. You get that 2-goal lead, and no, a 2-goal lead's not the most dangerous thing in soccer.
It's the most dangerous thing in the sport.
No, it's not. That's stupid.
I always thought it was 1.
Yes, that's what it would be. But, according to some people, it's always a 2-goal lead. Only because you only remember the times you blow a 2-goal lead, because it doesn't happen very often. You need that 2-goal lead. You need that second goal, whether it's to get it to 2-0, whether it's to get it to 3-1. You need that cushion. It helps. It's a good thing. And they were able to get that here with the goal from Gressel. But defensively, it was much more secure early, where New England was creating some chances either down their left or playing direct and looking for a knockdown. Atlanta was able to cut that out more in the second half. It was a really strong open to the second 45 minutes, and I think that's what really turned the game here. Michael Ruiz with a great point as we get into the Twitter timeline, talking about the expectations and reviews and what's good, what's great, what's not good, what's unacceptable, all those kinds of things. Michael says, it's been a fantastic season. At 58 points, here is the list of teams that have bested that mark since 2015. Red Bulls and Dallas were better than 58 points in 2015. That's 2. Dallas in 2016. That's 3. Toronto in 2017. That's 4. And then 4 teams did it in 2018. Red Bulls, Atlanta, Kansas City, and Seattle. So that takes you to 8 total. And LAFC and NYC this year. So only 10 teams since 2015 have had a better season than what Atlanta United did at 58 points. It does put it into a different perspective. I mean, you kind of forget about how big of a deal it is to get to 58 points. That shows it. It's just not something that many teams do. And you add on top of that, as Michael points out, an Open Cup, a Campiones Cup. He says, great effort overall. As far as this postseason, we should get to the Eastern Conference Final at the minimum, especially due to seeding and the games at home. More than that is a bonus in his opinion. I'd agree with that. I think that's fair. I think there's going to be, because of where Atlanta United is, I think there's going to be disappointment if you don't get to MLS Cup and you don't win MLS Cup. And that's okay. There should be. But I think if you get to the Eastern Conference Final, you win your 2 games at home, and you go into an Eastern Conference Final at Yankee Stadium, if that's the team. Now, if you get to the Eastern Conference Final at home, if NYC gets knocked out, then this changes a bit. But if you go on the road for the Eastern Conference Final, that feels like a different expectation to me.
Yeah. I mean, I see where you're coming from there, because you've taken care of business at home up to that point.
Well, you'd be going to play a team that's only lost once at home. I mean,
right.
You're going into a situation where you're not favored.
But there have been instances in the past where you have gone up to Yankee Stadium and taken care of business against NYCFC. So for me,
one time in a 180-minute tie, you did it in 90. That's a very different scenario.
I'll take my sample size.
Yeah,
and
it's a different thing. You haven't done it in a knockout because you haven't been in that situation, and that's the difference though for me when you get into this. And that does change the expectations. If it's 180 minutes, sure, because if Atlanta had gotten out of there scoreless last year, they would have been very happy to come back home in the second leg. You get the goal, it's a bonus. But in a knockout game, you can't really play that way exactly. You can be more defensive, but I think a team like Atlanta is not going to play that way in a knockout game. Now, I would expect if it comes down to NYC and Atlanta in an Eastern Conference Final at Yankee Stadium, it will be a more organized, conservative approach than Atlanta showed them a couple weeks ago. I would be shocked if it's not, but I don't think it will be as defensive as you were in the first 90 of 180 minutes, because that's a whole different type of scenario.
Yeah. And for me, if Atlanta United gets to that point where you're in Yankee Stadium in an Eastern Conference Final, I'm already intrigued as to how that might look and how that might roll out in that particular situation. Knowing how we've seen formations and elements in the past, I'm really intrigued by how that would look and how that approach would be.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because New York City, sitting at home, trying to get healthy, and waiting to face the winner of Toronto and DC. If it's DC, you're going to be dealing with the last ride of Wayne Rooney and probably the last ride of Luciano Acosta and maybe a few others, which you deal with a talent like Rooney in a knockout game. That's not an ideal scenario. You know, Wayne Rooney can win that game. He can. But I think the way DC has looked at the end of the season and the way they looked on Sunday, now they did not have Wayne Rooney on Sunday, but still, you had a team facing 9 players from Cincinnati who have been bad, but much better as of late. They finished strong. I don't think DC gets past Toronto. Now, Toronto going to Yankee Stadium, there's the obvious question about Josie Altidore, and it's a huge one. But Toronto going into Yankee Stadium would have zero problem playing a 5-3-2, 5-4-1, defend, look to get out on the counter, hope for a moment of magic from Pozuelo, and just take it as long as you can take it. And can NYC break them down? That would be the question mark in that one. I've always worried, and I need to go back and actually do stats on it. I've always felt like it's difficult when you have the bye and a team comes in after playing a game and you haven't in a while. I always feel like you run the risk of coming out flat. You run the risk of coming out rusty, and the other team comes in with some rhythm and hopefully some confidence coming off of a win, because they have to win to get there. And that can be tricky for some teams. We'll see if it is for NYC. I think Atlanta should benefit. Now they're going to have to face New England with both teams coming off of a break, and Atlanta at times has had problems coming off of a break. I would assume that the training schedule will be very different this time around, and you don't have as many guys away on international duty, which will help you a ton. You're not going to wear guys out, but you're going to have to maintain that level of intensity getting ready for that game. But then the second game, if Atlanta gets through New England, you should be in a bit of a rhythm. This format is fascinating about what it does to change strategies. Because you bring up the game from Yankee Stadium last year, and I don't even know if it really applies at this point because it's such a different format.
Yeah. Dealing with two legs and treating it like, okay, that's basically your first half or your second half, depending on when you play in those situations. But now that since this is a one-off, that's why I said I was going to be intrigued as to how it's addressed and what the philosophy is, because in as much as I'm certainly not a fan of the format, this is what is in front of you, and you have to sit there, and I wonder how much of your DNA, for lack of a better word at the moment, is tweaked to do something that's slightly out of character because it's a one-off instead of the two 90-minute legs.
Well, yeah, you have to do something different. You can't approach it like you did last year. I mean, last year's playoff approach, I think, is out the window because you only have half the time to take care of business, and you don't get a second leg at home in that final, that Eastern Conference final, if you get there. So you've got to approach it differently. I don't think that this is a team that would be playing for penalties. Now, would it be a team that is playing to defend first? Sure. I mean, that's just smart soccer. That's not necessarily playing for penalties because you have ways to attack. And when you have, just like we said with Wayne Rooney or Zlatan Ibrahimovic, when you have a player like that, Atlanta has Joseph Martinez. And we've seen it so many times where you don't need a lot of space, you don't need a big opening, and you get the right pass from a Julian Gressel, from an Ezequiel Barco, from a Pity Martinez, from a Justin Merrim, and Joseph is in. And when you've got a goal scorer like that and what he's done in this league, you've always got a puncher's chance, and you can afford to defend more in these kinds of games and keep the tie tight. You keep it close. Don't lose it early. That's the key here. It's going to be fascinating, and you've got so many storylines of all the teams coming in. We're going to take a break, come back, and reset for hour number 2. We've got a bunch of tweets to get to. Thanks, everybody, for tweeting at us and giving us your thoughts on expectations, how the season's gone, all of that, because it's a big thing as this stuff kind of starts to get defined as you get through year 3 and going into the third postseason, and what's acceptable and what the reasonable expectation is. We'll try to figure all that out as we go. I'm sure we won't completely nail it by the end of the show, but maybe we'll at least be able to get on the right path to that. We'll do our best. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by Apple Linsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Hour number 2, Soccer Down Here, October 7th. Jessica Sharman will join us tomorrow in hour number 2 for an extended segment because John will be on the road again.
Yeah, I will be doing the
singing Willie Nelson.
You don't want me singing. You really don't.
No, nobody wants that.
No, it's
Willie though. You might be able to handle Willie.
No, I mean, my vocal range is a country and western range. It is no longer the rock and roll that it was back in the 80s and 90s.
All right, well, you can hum along.
You still don't want me singing that kind of stuff. I mean, I could probably do Poncho and Lefty if I needed to, but no, you don't want me singing. And by the way, I think we do have an answer to our trivia question from yesterday that we challenged.
We do. We'll get there. Not everybody else wasn't in the room with that one. We'll get to that. They don't know the setup for it, so hold that. So John will be on the road for the second hour tomorrow. Jessica will join us for an extended segment, and Jarrett Smith is saying he's going to call in. Now, that can always be an adventure, but we'll find out if he can get out of the metal bunker that he works in and talk and not have the call drop and not torture any cats or anything like that. So that'll be an adventure. Buckle up for that one. All right, let's reset, in case you missed it, the playoff schedule when it comes to the Audi 2019 MLS Cup playoffs. It starts on October 19th. The first game of the postseason will be in Toronto as the 4 seed Toronto FC hosts the number 5 seed DC United. That's a noon kickoff on Saturday, October 19th. It's on Univision and TUDN. Next game up in the table is Atlanta and New England from the Benz on the 19th, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. It's on Univision and TUDN. That could kick off just a little bit later. I've seen some questions about kickoff time. It's a doubleheader. I think what would make it kick a little later is if Toronto DC goes to extra time, goes to penalties. Yeah. Because it's one broadcaster doing a doubleheader here, so they'd have to stick for all of that stuff and stick for anything post-game there. I don't think it's going to be a long pushback any which way. I don't think this will kick later than 3:20, I'm guessing, but now watch it probably go at like 3:30.
You just jinxed it. Yeah, usually what they'll do in these situations is they'll budget something akin to 2.5 to 2 hours and 45 minutes just to get that bridge in there in case something happens.
Yeah, you always do. If you're doing any kind of studio stuff, you're going to do 3. And that's why I don't think this will be like the usual Univision or TUDN games where they have the long pregame that's part of the game broadcast. I think because it's a double header, if Toronto DC ends on time, Atlanta New England would probably kick fairly close to 3. Yeah. If that one goes to extra time or penalties and things get pushed, it might get pushed a little, but not in a huge dramatic way. But that's Univision TUDN. I'm assuming it will also be available on Twitter, and stay tuned. There could be an additional option for you there. Hang tight. We'll also have it on 92.9 The Game with pregame starting at 2:30 Eastern Time on 92.9 The Game, on the radio.com app, on the Atlanta United app. Also on the 19th, 2 more games. One of them will overlap, which is kind of weird. I don't know how all this got negotiated out. But 3:30 Eastern time, Seattle hosting Dallas. That's on FS1 and Fox Deportes. And then at 10 o'clock, RSL hosting Portland. And the assumption there, and I have not seen this confirmed, and it probably won't be, is that RSL wanted to push that game to Saturday as opposed to Sunday. RSL really tries at all costs to avoid Sunday matches in Utah. And religious reasons, obviously, but this one gets pushed into a weird spot because it's on ESPN News, not on ESPN or ESPN2. College football taking up those windows. It's on ESPN News. It's also on ESPN Deportes. RSL Portland, October 19th. 2 games on the 20th. First one's at 3 o'clock. It's on FS1 and Fox Deportes. Philadelphia hosting the Red Bulls. The winner of that plays the winner of Atlanta and New England. October 20th in the evening, big game, Minnesota hosting the LA Galaxy. That's on ESPN and ESPN Deportes. Now, we know the rest of it as well. The winner of the Atlanta-New England match, the winner of the Philadelphia Red Bulls match, will play on October 24th, 7:30 p.m. on ESPN2 and ESPN Deportes. The higher seed will host that game. So if Atlanta wins, they're hosting it on Thursday, October 24th, 7:30, ESPN2, ESPN Deportes. NYC will play the winner of Toronto, D.C., on October 23rd, Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern. That's on FS1 and Fox Deportes. Out west, Wednesday, October 23rd, 10 o'clock, is the winner of RSL Portland against the winner of Seattle Dallas. And October 24th, LAFC waits till Thursday night, 10:30 Eastern time. They play the winner of Minnesota and LA Galaxy. Eastern Conference Final is October 30th. Time to be determined. It's going to be on FS1 and Fox Deportes. Western Conference Finals October 29th. And the final, as has already been announced, is November 10th, 3 o'clock Eastern. That's on ABC, Univision, TUDN, TSN, TVAS in Canada. There's your bracket, and it is fixed. There will not be reseeding. It is what it is. So if you get a bunch of upsets, your bracket's going to be chaos.
Yep.
But you can actually pick a bracket if you want. They have a bracket challenge on MLSsoccer.com if you're so inclined. So go for that if you want to. Let's get into
waiting for prize picks.
Yeah, well, that's a little different. Let's get into the Twitter timeline. Nathan Pugh chimes in. Orlando got relegated, if only. A beautifully on par reaction on Monday, according to Nathan Pugh. That was the game that nobody was paying any attention to yesterday because why would you? It meant nothing. Orlando gave up 5 goals to Chicago. 5-2 loss at home in Central Florida to the Chicago Fire. And this is the part that's the most disturbing, John. Orlando gets the first goal. Tesho Akindele, 5th minute. Own goal in the 17th. So it's 1-1 at halftime. Orlando conceded in the 61st, the 63rd, and the 67th.
Ooh.
3 goals in 6 minutes.
Yikes, Shaggy. That's just not good.
Those are the types of things that make you wonder if you have the right manager in place.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really know what to think about Orlando City and their current technical staff at this point. I don't know if they're on the right path or not.
Yeah.
And when you don't know at this point, that might mean you actually know. It might not be the right group. It might need to change, but that's risky too because they've made changes before and they really haven't worked out either. So I don't know what you do if you're Orlando City.
And when you're, because if we're sitting here and we're going, we don't know what to do they have that same feeling and then that paralysis that you have if you're still kind of caught between ideas, and that may force you to do nothing that may set you back even further. And so for me, that's another part of this whole thing. It's like, all right, the answer is probably in front of you, but if you're not sure of yourself, then you pull the trigger. And then if you don't pull the trigger, are you making things worse by not acting and trying to give it one more, whatever time frame you're thinking? But it's just, I mean, for me, Orlando is, they're in a world of hurt. And for me, it's an easy answer, but then you're still not in the playoffs. You still haven't made it. You bring in a new coach with new ideas. He wants to bring in his own guys. He wants to bring in his own players. Next year is going to be another transition year for a team that will not have made the playoffs probably, but obviously it's a mess, and that's the only way I can phrase it.
Another mess on our hands could be developing in Houston. The Dynamo with a 4-2 win over the LA Galaxy, they proved to be somewhat of a spoiler, dropping the Galaxy into a road game in the postseason in Minnesota. But Albert Ellis spoke to the media afterwards, and he said this, and this is translated by John E. Rojas, great follow on Twitter, JROJASA75. This is the translation from what Ellis said after the match. I have contract for one more year, and my decision is to finish my contract and leave at the end free of charge, taking the best decision. I hope this doesn't bring me any problems next year. I hope I can finish the contract in the best way possible. I already told them, talking about the front office, that I want to finish the contract. Hopefully this doesn't bring any issues because I don't know if they want me to stay or not. Let's see what happens. If you're the Houston Dynamo and a player like Ellis, who is an asset, you have to look at it that way. He says he wants to leave, but he wants to leave on a free where he can choose where he wants to go.
Right.
You can't allow that to be the resolution here if you're the Houston Dynamo. That's not good business. This is where you have to sit down with Ellis's folks and representation and Ellis and say, where do you want to go? We're going to try to get you there now. And we're going to try to get something for the club out of it.
Yep.
Because I understand Ellis wants to be able to make his own decision on where to go. I 100% get that from the player perspective. Obviously, that's what you want to do. But if you're the club, you can't do that. You can't let him walk for nothing. You've got to figure this out. So now is the time where basically, and this is not something that's uncommon. The way this is going down is maybe a little surprising for some who don't follow the world game as much. But John, how many times do you see where a club tells a player or tells the agent, all right, go figure out where you want to go. You can go talk to clubs.
Yeah.
And they go work it out. So that instead of the club going to sell the player first, they say, hey, go find a deal that you want, and then we'll negotiate the transfer.
And then, of course, there's Tottenham. But that's another story in and all together. But no.
Well, that goes into this, though. I mean, they're dealing with this with Christian Eriksen right now. And a few other players. But Eriksen's the highest profile one where I think Christian Eriksen is probably saying this exact same thing. He wants to finish his contract. He wants to be able to choose where he goes free of charge and not have anything that could get in the way of where he wants to go. But that's bad business for the club.
Yeah.
And you have to get on the same page.
And that's the thing. It's like if you're going to do that player a solid, give him the notice and say, all right, look, find us a deal. Find us a suitor. We can work on something that way instead of having whatever amount of time is left on the deal completely sit there and just fritter away and the relationship goes south and everything goes negative and you have a player who's not motivated while he's still under contract. And if I was Houston, I would do the same thing. I would sit there with Elise and go, look, tell your agent or your reps to sit there, find us some suitors. So that way we can get something done. You can go where you want to go, and at the same time, we can have something out of this deal for ourselves where we can reinvest or do whatever we want to do with that money. But if you don't do something like that, then how many other teams worldwide are going to want to do anything with you if they see what you may or may not do with Albert Thalys? You sit there, all right, so we'll do you a solid. Teams will want to do business with you. If you're difficult with Thalys, then other stars from around this hemisphere or wherever you're searching for players, they're going to sit there and say, okay, well, we see what you guys did with Thalys. We're not interested in coming there. So I think that if you're Houston, to benefit you longer term, then you're going to want to do something where you want to do a solid for your star so you can have other business later on and folks won't have a negative vibe about you.
No, it's not. It's not about doing a solid for Ellis, because doing a solid for Ellis would be letting him play out his contract and walking. Why would you do that? Like it's not Houston doing something bad to Albert Ellis here. He's got a contract for another year. So doing something bad would be what?
Just letting the whole thing let it die.
No. Disagree. 100% disagree. Like, Houston's not going to look bad to other clubs, and players aren't going to want to go there if that's the case. No.
But if Houston just follows the money, that's what I think is worse. They're not taking Elise's ideas into this.
Yeah, he won't accept the transfer though. But that's the thing, is Houston's stuck. Houston can't do something bad here to Albert Ellis because he's already laid down the gauntlet. He's already said, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to play out my contract, and then I'm saying adios, and then you're getting zero. There's nothing Houston can do except try to salvage the situation by saying, Albert, agent, come sit down. Yeah. Where do you want to go? We're going to let you pick where you want to go right now. Go negotiate. Go figure out where you are free to negotiate with any club. You go get your contract you want from whoever you want, and then we will make the transfer happen. We're not going to stand in the way. We're going to try to get something. We're going to try to get a little something for us because we've done a lot for you, but we're not going to stand in your way. Houston hasn't given any indication they're going to do something bad here because they can't.
No.
There's nothing. They can't move him to a club that he doesn't want to go to because he's already basically said, like, I'm going to play the contract out. He's going to refuse any transfer if he can. And we don't know the contract situations. No club is now going to come in and say, oh, well, we can't negotiate a deal with Ellis, so... Like, no, we're not going to run the risk of taking a guy in the final year of his contract and he doesn't want to play for us and he sits out and we get nothing. No, we're not going to do that. So Houston has no leverage. There's nothing they can do to make it worse for them. They have to try to salvage it. And the only way you do that is tell his agent, go negotiate with anybody you want, get whatever deal you want. We're not going to stand in your way. We will negotiate the transfer. We just have to get something for it, and we'll let you go now instead of waiting a year. That's all Houston can do here.
Yep, and that's the best thing for them because letting the deal die at least goes out on a free does you no good.
It's not going to affect other players wanting to go there. Other players are going to be like, well, cool, I can go play out my contract and then go where I want to go. But it's not going to help you financially because you've invested in Albert Ellis. You paid a transfer fee for him. You've paid him a good salary. He doesn't want to stay there long term, which is understandable. I think he has an opportunity to go to Europe. He wants to call his shot. Let him call his shot now. And even if you have to do it, if it's something where you're not going to be able to get it done until the summer, just set up the expectation with Ellis and his agent that, look, we just want to get something. That's all. We're not going to block you from any move. We'll let you go wherever you want to go. We just want to get a little something. That's all. And that's where they basically have to try to make that happen. That's why you see relationship building be such a key thing. When players play out their contracts and walk, that normally gives you an idea that they don't have that loyalty to the club. I always think back to Tito Villalba and San Lorenzo, where his contract was ending, and there were all kinds of rumors in Argentina about him going to Boca Juniors. And he said, no, I'm not going to go to Boca. The only club I'm going to play for is San Lorenzo in Argentina, and I'm going to sign a deal. I want to leave. I want to go test myself elsewhere in another country, but I'm going to sign a new deal with San Lorenzo so they get a transfer for me because of what they've given me. That's loyalty. Yes. Ellis is basically telling you, and Christian Eriksen and a number of other players are like, no, I don't care about the club I'm at right now. I'm going to leave, and I want as much say in my future as possible, which is understandable, but there is a way to make it work where both benefit. So we'll see what happens in Houston. Eichmann chimes in. Zlatan may not have won the day versus Vela. Vela did win the Golden Boot. Vela had a hat trick. Spectacular second goal. But Eichmann says the Galaxy will upset LAFC in round 2 of the playoffs. That's his overreaction Monday. I disagree with Eichmann because I don't think the Galaxy upset Minnesota United to get to round 2 of the playoffs. And I think Minnesota might upset LAFC in round 2 of the playoffs.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at Minnesota far deeper than I am the Galaxy. The Galaxy for me, yeah, you'd mentioned Zlatan scoring 9, and I think that turning it into FIFA 20 is the only way that the Galaxy are going to have any kind of chance of getting deep into the playoffs, period. I don't see it with the Galaxy. I've got too many defensive issues and just recent run of form. It's bad math for me when it comes to the Galaxy.
Okay, Caleb Wright has a Western Conference bracket that I think might be a bit of an overreaction Monday. Caleb says, what is the likelihood of LA Galaxy getting to the Western Conference final? For my bracket, I have them beating Minnesota and LAFC, and Seattle beating RSL and Dallas as the Galaxy's counterpart to the Western Conference final. So Caleb's picking a Seattle Galaxy Western Conference final.
No.
I got to disagree. That other side of the bracket's interesting. Seattle, Dallas, RSL, Portland. RSL Portland will be a knife fight.
Yeah.
I think RSL will get the better of Portland, but Portland's going to make them sweat for it. Then you get RSL playing the winner of Seattle, Dallas. Dallas, I think, has been an interesting team to watch under Luchi Gonzalez. I think they're not quite ready for this, although Seattle, if anybody can get pipped, it's Seattle. Defensively, they're just shaky. Nico Ladero can carry them over the line. Seattle RSL is a toss-up to me.
Yeah.
It'll be at Seattle if that's the case. It's a toss-up. I think Seattle should be able to get through it. I think they get a really nice road to the Western Conference final, and they could be hosting it because I could see a rematch of Decision Day in the Western Conference, Seattle hosting Minnesota.
Yeah, but for me, it's about Ladero, and we saw what Roman Torres, where did that come from?
He scores big goals. He's always done it. He put Panama into the World Cup with a phantom goal that didn't cross the line, but somehow was given a goal. Because it happens. But you can't say that. That's not why the U.S. didn't qualify for the World Cup. Although, actually, it really, truly is why they didn't qualify, because if that's not a goal, then they qualify. But anyway, they should have taken care of their own business. I know. Trust me. I understand. But Roman Torres has come up in big moments. And the whole thing with the failed test and PED suspension that we've seen a couple people get hit with now, that really was an awful time for Seattle. They only won 2 games out of that 10. But now that he's back, you've got an emotional leader. Is that enough? I don't know. With that road, getting past Dallas and either RSL or Portland, which would be, if Portland can get past RSL to create if a knife fight is what's going to happen in Utah between Portland and RSL, I don't know what Portland going into CenturyLink with the way the Timbers are playing. They're going to put 9 behind the ball and just kick everything that moves, especially Ladero. They're going to try to kick him into the front row if possible. It will be
You have Cascadia again leading to in the semifinal.
No, I mean, yes, it'll be that again. But what I'm saying is it'll be an ugly game. It'll be a highly entertaining game because of what's at stake and because of the rivalry. But it'll be a ugly game.
Be great for those of us that don't have a vested interest in it. It'd be great TV, though.
Yes. I have not seen this interview yet. I didn't get a chance to sit down and watch it. But Fourcade Ahmed asked about the Kevin Egan interview with Frank DeBoer. That I think a clip was played on Twitter, and then it was in the pregame yesterday. Fourcade said, I think Frank DeBoer is playing chess, and everyone is analyzing his checkers moves. I wasn't a fan when he was hired, but I became his biggest fan. Did you get a chance to see that yet?
No, I have not.
Okay. I will check that out and give you a review, but in just totally here, I agree. I think Frank DeBoer has done a good job. I think he is somebody that the more I hear him talk about the way he sees the game, the more he gives you that impression. Oh, never mind. Hold on. Sorry. Frank DeBoer, yes, is a big deal, and he's had a great year, but we got news. And it gets the thunderclap in a big way.
Uh-oh.
Paul Tenorio tweeted a couple minutes ago, Orlando City has fired James O'Connor.
Okay.
And they will search for a fourth head coach ahead of their sixth season. Well, there's the answer.
Right.
I didn't know what the answer was, but that was the answer. Well, no. Let me make clear what I said earlier. I said that I don't know if I think O'Connor is the guy to lead it forward, and not knowing is probably your answer because you should know by now. And they knew. They said it's not enough. And I really wonder if 3 goals in 6 minutes and the way they finished down the stretch where they had a shot to go to the playoffs. Orlando City had a road to the postseason that the fact that New England is there and Orlando City is not, that's why O'Connor lost his job. Because let's get into the form guide here. New England, they didn't lose until yesterday from August 3rd. It was August 3rd and then yesterday. But what did they do in the meantime of that? Draw, win, draw. No, sorry, they lost that at NYC, my fault. And then draw, win over NYC at Gillette. So they only took full points twice since August 3rd, and they got the 7 spot.
Yeah.
Orlando City only took full points twice in that time frame, and they didn't have as many draws. They had a loss to Atlanta. They had a loss at San Jose 3-0. They had a loss at Houston 2-1 after they had the lead. They had a loss to Chicago on the final day where they were already eliminated. They had to fight back against New England. That 3-3 draw in Orlando is what sealed their fate. They had a chance to beat an LAFC team during the international break, but that's a draw 2-2. They were so poor in those final 8 games, 0-4-4. 4 points out of their last 8 games where they have a shot to get to the postseason, and doesn't happen. I think you have to make the move.
Yeah. And you and I will both sit here and say that what we saw with James O'Connor in the USL in Louisville, tremendous work in the USL. And I wanted to see how well he would do in MLS. And now I wonder if O'Connor goes back to the USL. And
yes, I think he has to. He's not getting another MLS job right now.
No, but I mean, I didn't know if he would be an assistant here in the MLS level or if he would go back to the USL and be a head coach. But I want to see him go back to USL and see him rebuild a second time because I really liked what he put together there in Lou City.
Outscored 18-10 over that stretch of 8 games that they went 0-4-4. They were at one point 6th in the East and finished with the second worst record in the conference. Now, it's not all O'Connor's fault in Orlando. This is a club that has been in free fall since they entered the league. But, yeah.
Yeah, that's about right.
I'm really fascinated to see where they go now. Luis Muzzi took over last year as the GM. What direction does he go? This is a guy who was at FC Dallas for a long time. He's not going to get somebody like Luchi Gonzalez, but is there somebody else that's been in the Dallas universe that he could go try to get? He's not going to go get I don't think there's anybody from Dallas that he's going to go get that I think about it. So what direction is he going to go in? I don't know. I don't know what sells you on Orlando at this point. I mean, these are your point totals. 44, 7th in the East, 14th overall. 2016, 41 points, 8th in the East, 15th overall. 2017, 39 points, 10th in the East, 18th overall. 2018, 28 points, 11th in the East, 22nd overall. Gave up 74 goals. 2019, you gave up 52 goals. That's better. You scored one more goal than you did in 2018. You got 9 more points, 37 points, the second worst you've ever had in club history in your 5th year, and you finished 11th and in 22nd place overall. You did get to an Open Cup semifinal. It's a little something. But, yeah, that's it.
Let me ask you this. Do they go the same way that San Jose did in trying to attract a coach from, say, Liga MX to come in and it's like, okay, here are the keys? Something like that.
Depends. I mean, that would be what I would try to sell somebody on. If I am Luis Muzzi, I would be right now or probably last night on the phone with Diego Alonso, who was fired from Monterrey, and say,
yeah,
Diego, you see what Matias has done over in San Jose. I've got Nani for you. San Jose didn't have anybody like Nani. I've got Nani for you. I've got some other pieces to work with, and you've got a cleaner slate than Almeida had going to San Jose. Almeida had to do this with other pieces that didn't necessarily fit. That's why what he did was so impressive, even though they did fail at the end and not get into the playoffs and lost 6 straight at the end. That's going to leave a mark. But if you're selling this to a Diego Alonso, to anybody, it's Sasha Kleshin's deal is coming off the books. There's other deals that are going to be off the books at the end of this. You've got Nani. You've got Chris Mueller. You've got Benji Michel, who's shown a little something. You've got Tesho Akindele, a good player in this league. You've got some good pieces to work with. I think Orlando's roster right now is better than San Jose's at the end of last season. But Orlando as a club, those point totals, that decline, the toxicity around it, you didn't have that in San Jose. That's going to be that's going to deter people from wanting this job. Now, Luke Hetrick, LH Sports TV, who is a reporter and anchor with Spectrum Sports in Central Florida, he tweeted that, personally, I expected O'Connor to get another year. Lions made significant improvement from last year's disaster. But this is the interesting one. City has a ton of cap run, I think he meant room, in the upcoming year. Sources have told me they plan on making major moves. Seems O'Connor did not fit into their plans. If they're going to make major moves, if they're going to spend major dollars, you need to get a major manager.
Yes.
And just that one right there that has had success in this hemisphere, Diego Alonso from Monterrey, who is now out of a job, would seem to be a really good first call. Now, there's others. There's plenty of others, and don't forget the Brazilian connections with Orlando City. So if you're going to make major moves, you got to have the manager to suit it. And if that's the case, this makes a lot of sense, because I don't think O'Connor is that guy to handle that kind of team.
No. And that was why I wanted to bring up the Liga MX chasing of a coach because if you've got cap space and you want to bring in quote unquote big name players, you're going to need a big name coach. And that was why I wanted to ask about Diego Alonso.
Yeah, he's the one that I would think of straight away. I mean, there's others. There's plenty of others out there, but he's the one that immediately comes to mind. Justin Merrim is randomly laughing on Twitter. It could be anything. It could absolutely be anything, just saying.
Yes.
Laughing emojis happen sometimes.
Yes, they do.
You hear a funny song on the radio, or you see something on TV.
You hit it, and you think that the button's appropriate.
Yeah, of course. That's probably all it is. Chris Hutchison with a question on an overreaction Monday, and we'll talk more Orlando as more stuff comes out. Chris asks and says, the Revs sliced right through our defense several times yesterday and made our three backs seem like they weren't even there. What can we do to shore that up? Also, what's up with Remedi? Has Lorenowitz passed him on the depth chart? I think Lorenowitz is the safer option right now, and that's probably why I hate it for Eric Remedi. I think Remedi's best suited as an 8, and I like him more as an 8 where he can go find the game as opposed to being a 6 where he has to be more restrained, and I think he struggles with that. The sliced right through our defense, the reason I would push back on it is it wasn't like New England had a lot of possession and sliced through with passing. I think where New England caused Atlanta problems was in transition, which is a little different. I think it's the same issue that Atlanta will have anytime in 2019. Atlanta United's nature is to get a lot of numbers forward, and when they do that and they either turn it over or don't finish the play with a goal, or, and in this case, and it was very clear what New England's strategy was on one sequence, and I'll explain it. If you don't finish a sequence with a goal or a shot that goes wide for a goal kick, New England is going to go as fast as possible direct. And there was a sequence where Matt Turner hustled to keep a ball in rather than allow the goal kick, so then he could immediately punt it long because he had, I think, a 2v2. And he wanted to take his chances with that. That was obviously the game plan for New England, was if you've got a 2v2 or a 3v3 or a 1v1, go direct and let Bo or Bunbury or Pania try to win it. Let them go try to win that duel. Now, Atlanta, first half, you give up the goal to Pania. You had other moments, but it all came back to not so much getting sliced through, but over-committing numbers forward and not finishing plays. And I think it's the same story that we've seen all year.
Yeah, for me, when you looked at slicing, I just thought that it had to do with run of play, and you get caught in transition opportunities, and the team takes advantage of stuff like that. But that was clamped down, obviously, in the second 45 minutes, I thought. But yeah, for me, it was just, if it's something that doesn't have, that's not coming off of a stoppage of play, then you're going to have that back and forth, and that's what I thought I saw.
Yeah, I mean, the run of play, I don't think New England was better in general. I wouldn't say they sliced through Atlanta's back line when they were set, when they were in a defensive posture. It was when New England went fast and caught Atlanta either flat-footed or with numbers forward that New England looked their most dangerous. Let's take a quick break. The Orlando news threw us off because this is what happens after Decision Day. Orlando City will be looking for a new manager. We'll be getting into more of your Overreaction Monday tweets. If you have any about Orlando, go ahead and share them. We'll talk about those as well. We'll be right back after this.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, October 7th. It is an action-packed Overreaction Monday. All the things happening during the show. Here's a little breaking news for you. With the fancy breaking news sounder. Atlanta and New England, October 19th, 3 p.m. It is available on Univision, also on Fox Sports Southeast. Fox Sports Southeast will have your English language call with Kevin Egan, Dan Gargan, Jillian Sakovitz. This is something that I knew they were working on, and if you noticed earlier, I was teasing it, hoping it was going to come to fruition. And it might not be. There might be another option. I know everybody's all riled up. Hopefully, and it is. So 3 o'clock, it will be available on Fox Sports Southeast as well. And, hey, we'll be on 92.9 The Game, so there's always that option as well if you want to listen on radio.com. Yes. Or on the Atlanta United app. And we'll have our normal range of programming, Five Stripes Countdown at 2:30, full-time report for an hour following the outcome, whatever it is, because it is a knockout game. Extra time is in play. Penalties are in play. All of the things are in play. And we'll have all of it, and Fox Sports Southeast will have all of it. So great news there for Atlanta United viewers. Okay. Orlando City looking for a new manager. Go ahead and start speculating, and we have speculation in the hopper that we will try to get to before we wrap up. But it's also an Overreaction Monday, and there was a game yesterday, and there were lots of games yesterday, and there were lots of things to react to. Shiva had a reaction. That's a great reaction. She said, the highlight of my day was meeting Joseph and taking a picture with him after the game. I tweeted it yesterday, but what a humble and kind person to walk to the fans and making sure he takes care of them, especially the little ones. And that's the key. Like, when you look at Joseph, come in to the stadium, he really goes out of his way to shake hands, slap five with as many people as possible. And he always goes out of his way to make sure that every kid there gets a moment. And it's not long, and he's a very busy man. There's a lot of kids who want to meet and talk to Joseph, but he does everything possible to make it special for every kid he sees. That's a really cool thing.
And then when matches are over, he goes and hangs out with the adults and takes pictures on phones and makes sure that he's properly hydrated.
Oh, that was great. That was greatness of him signing things, taking selfies with people, and somebody had set a beer nearby, and Joseph was thirsty. So, hey, he needed a sip. He's getting a little parched. It happens. It's all good. Yeah. Herschel Skywalker chimes in, and I don't know exactly what prompted it. He says, I know Miggy. I was a fan of Miggy. Pity Martinez, you are no Miggy. No, he's not. No. Nobody said he was. If they did, they were incorrect because he's a very different player. Yesterday, the decision was to not start him, and the game didn't call for him, so there's no need to just throw him out there to throw him out there. You knew that Barco was only going to play 60, and the decision was made that Tito needed to play in that moment and give you something different up top. You also had the 3-1 lead. You could be a little more direct. You didn't have to build play up. Pity Martinez is not Miguel Almiron. I've never implied that he was, and I hope that others didn't, because he's not. He's just a different kind of player. He's not going to give you the same things that Miguel Almiron gave you. And if those were the expectations, they were unfair. I think Pity's had a good year. You don't have the goals and assists that Pity Martinez has, and you don't have the chances created if you're not having a good year. Has he had a great year? No. Has he had the year that he finished River Plate with last year? No, he hasn't hit that level. But he's been good. And he will play a role in the postseason, whether it's as a starter or off the bench. And it might be opponent by opponent. Because, talked about it a lot last week, if you're going to do the 3-4-3, which is the 3-5-2 essentially with Barco and Pity up top, that is a far more attack-minded lineup. You can play it very defensively if you just sit your other 7 basically in a 4-3 configuration or a 3-4 configuration, but if they just sit back and let your front 3 go, that's very disjointed. You haven't really played that way. You could do it, but the other way you play postseason soccer is you sacrifice one of Barco or Pity. And John, I thought Frank was very clear in saying that Barco needed the minutes yesterday, needed to play 60 minutes to be ready for the postseason. Pity is ready for the postseason. Pity's fine.
Yes.
He might not start against New England because you still have to deal with the same transition stuff, but I don't think Pity is, off in a doghouse right now. I think Pity
he's
Martinez,
not on the outs or anything like that.
I don't think so. And I didn't get I think there were attempts to read into comments that were made yesterday after the match. I didn't take them that way. Maybe I'm misreading them. But I didn't take them as a situation where Pity's lost his spot. I think it is down to the best 11 for each match.
Right. And for me, that's how I'm taking each match with as healthy a side as you've had all season long, because New England is a certain way, and you have to approach it with an 11 in mind and with an 18 in mind. And then in 2 weeks, New England plays a certain way. And you wonder if New England's going to do anything differently. I know that you had mentioned one of two approaches that New England could do if they wanted to be more defensive, or if they just wanted to put everybody out there and put all the chips on the table and go. And Frank DeBoer has to sit there and think, okay, what would be the best thing for me when it comes to my formation going up against New England, whom I've already seen, but can do things possibly a little differently. And so I think that this is game by game, and you're coming up with an 18, with a game plan for that 18, and your 11 that's going to start in that particular matchup. So this isn't time for the fancy breaking news alarm or a siren or anything like that. It's just how you think things are going to lay out in a certain situation in the playoffs. So do not be alarmed if something looks slightly off kilter when it comes to a starting 11 that you might have anticipated.
He went a little more conservative than I thought he would go in this match. I think that gives you the blueprint for the playoff match. I don't expect a massive difference in the way Atlanta approaches it. Now, if New England is more defensive, it could invite a halftime substitution to bring Pity in to break that. That's what I think would happen. But you have to default that, how can New England hurt me the most? It's going to be through transition. It's going to be with speed. This is why I had this lineup. Now, do you see Remedi in place of Lorenowitz? Maybe. But I think the overall idea of 3-5-2 versus 3-4-3 is what we'll see. Now, another thing you did see in this one, too, that we haven't talked about yet, was when Florentin Pogba checked in, I saw a lot of people refer to it as a conservative 4-3-3. It was really awkward, is what it was. Pogba came in for Merrim, and it gave Escobar a little more license to bomb forward because Pogba wasn't going forward as a wingback normally would, as Merrim would anyway. Pogba was staying at home more. So Pogba, LGP, Robinson were going to stay home. Escobar could take a few more chances and go forward, and he did. I don't think it was truly a 4-3-3. It was just a little awkward because Pogba got caught a couple of times with really poor positioning. And that's a concern if you're trying to close a game out with that type of idea. I was worried when Pogba was getting caught a couple of times in no man's land, in between the center backs and the midfield, just kind of on an island. Now, his aggressiveness did pay off a couple of times, but he got caught a couple of times. That's something that's got to get cleaned up. I wasn't convinced by it, and it's something that you get the 3-1 lead, and you want to close the game out. All right, it's got to be a little stronger than it was yesterday because you don't want that second goal to come, then it's 3-2. Then you're shaky. That's something that I think we'll see maybe a little bit different idea of how to close it out. Jorge B. chimes in on an Overreaction Monday. After Gressel's goal, Joseph pulled Merrim to the side and he was giving him instructions. Later on, he was talking to Tito and Barco. Although Joseph is not the designated captain for the team, his leadership role is extremely important. I think he's the emotional leader of the team.
Yeah.
And I think he is taking on more of a captain's persona in those types of moments, in giving instructions and setting things up. So I think Joseph, his absence was pronounced. And when he's there, his presence is huge for this group.
Yeah, right there with you. And when you talk about emotional leader, soul, those kinds of things, I think that you look at Joseph, and what, you're going to be the one to tell Joseph no when he tells you to do something? No. It's not how it's going to play.
No, I'm not. I'm definitely not doing that.
No.
I don't want that to happen.
No.
ATL UTD fan number 1 says, in this, quote, sky is falling season, unquote, it's time to recognize the job FDB has done this season, dealing with all these injuries and absences. We still win 2 trophies and finished in second. Hashtag well done. Hashtag on par reaction. I'd agree with that. I think, yeah, I mean, what Bob Bradley's done is going to get him Coach of the Year. What Matias Almeida did with San Jose was going to get him a lot of hype, as it should. There's been other very strong coaching jobs in the league this season, but Frank DeBoer has done a very, very good job with Atlanta United in a very difficult year.
And, yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. With Bradley and Almeida, and, I mean, if you look at what Frank DeBoer has done, and to me it almost seems like it's been a quieter version of success, and it's just because of how he is publicly. And it's just like, I'm going to do my thing. Here's what we're going to do. Matter of fact about it. And it's just, there's not a whole lot of pomp and circumstance associated with it. With Bradley, you get the shiny objects and you get all the records and you get Vela and all this kind of stuff. With Almeida, you saw what he did with the roster that he was forced to use. And with Frank, it's just like, all right, it's almost lunch pail and hard hat by comparison when you're looking at the other two.
Ricky Ricardo with a judgment call, and I'm going to let you take the first one on this, John. Decision day winners, RSL and Toronto, although no Josie will not be good, and we'll wait to see the extent of his injury. Decision day losers, DC and the Galaxy.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely go with the losers being the DC and the Galaxy in that. Toronto, I'm right there with you. RSL getting a home match, I'm there. I think that Minnesota losing on the last day of the regular season, it's not the biggest thing that Dent Wizard has to take care of, but obviously being in a position where you were second and finishing lower than that for me is. That's a bit of a ding. It's not a loser, but no, I will go with RSL and Toronto, and then obviously Atlanta United taking care of business and finishing second as well. But yeah, DC for me. Can you relegate a team from the playoffs for a poor performance on decision day?
Nope.
So then, DC is definitely DC definitely a loser, and the Galaxy for me, then watch them surprise us all and outscoring people 10-7 or something like that. But yeah, I would go with those four and then adding Atlanta United taking care of business and finishing second.
Seattle is the other decision day winner for me. They won and put themselves into a really good section of the bracket because they're not in the section with the pitfalls of Zlatan, of Allianz Field and Minnesota and how dangerous that can be. They are in the section, or LAFC, they're in the section where they're going to be seeing Dallas and then either a Portland Timbers team that pulls an upset that is a shadow of what it was last year, or RSL, a very young team that's still figuring out how to be what they are. So Seattle, by winning, put themselves into a very favorable spot. I would put them as the biggest decision day winner. I think they have a great bracket to get through. Daniel Price says, morning, y'all. Good game yesterday.
Morning.
Overall, last MLS regular season match. A fine way for us to celebrate Michael Parkhurst. Only way it would have been better is if we won a penalty and Joseph let Parkey take it. I don't know if that would have happened.
No, but at the same time, if the game was out of control, there's that outside chance of that going down. But you also saw Joseph take a shot late after getting the ball from Parkey just to get Parkey a possible assist.
I don't know if he was thinking about where it came from to try to get an assist. I think Joseph's just always looking to go to goal. It doesn't matter who gives him the pass. Could be anybody.
But, yeah.
Jorge B chimes in. I was worried about Franco Escobar on the first half, but he was lights out in the second half. LGP was able to push the team and break through the line several times, and his passing accuracy is fantastic. We need both of them playing at a higher level in the playoffs. We've talked about Escobar. I thought LGP was really good yesterday as well.
Yeah, and I will second that with LGP. And you're not focusing on an LGP moment like he had in Montreal, and it's just solid, and he'll hit the diagonal pass that we're used to seeing. So, yeah, I will second your thoughts on LGP as well.
Daniel also chimed in and said, we just need to be wary of individual mistakes as we go deeper into the playoffs. If we can eliminate individual breakdowns, then this is a team that wins MLS Cup. I think it's a team that can. I think going to NYC, if they get through, will be difficult, even if you eliminate individual mistakes. It'll just be difficult because they're that good, and it's a difficult place to play. But you're not going to get there against a New England team that can punish individual mistakes, or a Philadelphia or Red Bulls team that can punish individual mistakes. If you're making them, you might not get to deal with NYC. That's the concern. I think the Eastern Conference, there is separation. Atlanta and NYC, for me, feel like a cut above. Philadelphia could be part of that cut. They've been part of that cut most of the year. The injuries have me concerned going into the postseason, but if they're healthy, I think they're part of that cut. But any of them can lose to New England, Toronto, DC, Red Bulls. It's not haves and have-nots. It's haves and have-mores. So you can have these teams that are in the bottom half of the Eastern Conference bracket pull an upset, and I don't think it's a massive upset. All of the teams that are at the top are good, but not unbeatable. That's what makes this playoff format really fascinating.
That's going to be the fun part of this whole thing. Daniel also says, who or what is at Joseph Martinez 17? He cannot be human. Not only did he start after an injury, but he played all 90. We don't deserve him. He brings dedication and another level of passion that propels his team.
He's a special player, and he's the heartbeat of this team. I think it's something that you see when he's there, but you maybe see it even more when he's not. And it was something that was missing over the last two. John Nason said, I know you mentioned Franco playing better in the second half, I think especially when he moved out to wingback. Do you think that's more his natural position and where you get the best from him? I think his natural position is as a right back. He didn't truly play as a wingback. Again, it was really awkward at the end in terms of, was it 4 in the back? Was it 5 in the back? What was it exactly? Parkhurst was in a wide role, too. He kind of tucked inside. The very end, if Escobar's wider than Parkhurst, the game's over by that point, so it's a little bit easier for him. I thought when Franco was at his best in the second half is when he was as a center back, and he dealt with Christian Pania in a much better way in the second half. That was where I really was praising him a lot on the call. I think Franco Escobar's best position, though, long-term, is in a four-man back line as a right back. I think he can play as a wing back, and he gets forward really well and can have a good presence for any team in the final third. He's not super technical, but he reads the game well and puts himself into good positions, and he can give you those big moments. Like, he doesn't shy away from big moments. He'll take shots, he'll finish plays off, he'll create assists. But defensively this season, he hasn't been as strong as he was last year. And that's really anytime the concern for a Franco Escobar, but he gives you a player in this setup, if you're going to commit numbers forward and you want Julian Gressel to bomb forward and be a chance creator for you, to have Escobar as the center back inside of him, it gives you the pace to cover, where he plays a little bit of a hybrid. He plays a center back role, but he's expected to get forward when he can, and he's expected to go out wide and deal with a player like a Christian Pania when he has to. It's tough. It's tough for any player, and I think Escobar struggled with it in the first half and was much better in the second. Long term, I mean, so much of that is going to depend on what the roster looks like next year. Do you go to a 4-3-3 setup? Do you play a 3-4-3 setup? Escobar's versatile enough to find a spot in either one, but I think he's probably better suited to be the right back in a 4-3-3.
On that same line, Vine City FC asks, do we have a left wing / wing back battle on the left? Love Tito's speed, intriguing lineup to end the match.
No, Tito wasn't playing left wing back. No, the wing back is Merrim. Now, Pereira had been in that mix battling for time, and he's seemingly kind of fallen behind that a little bit as he struggled late in the year. The problem you worry about is, will teams make the decision to make Merrim defend, to sit back and defend? Will they put pressure on him there? I'm surprised we haven't seen more of it. I'm really surprised we haven't seen teams try to do that more. Tito came on in this match, though, as a forward. He came on to play up top with Barco. Now he's going to drift out wide, but he wasn't playing as the wing back. I don't think he can. I think the NYC game was a game where he could have, based off the size of the pitch and based off the matchup that he had running at Sebastian Ibeagha. He struggled. He gave you nothing defensively, and it just didn't work. I don't think he plays as a wingback. I think it's Merrim. I think he's earned the spot. You're not taking it away from him at this point. He was good yesterday, not great. He was good. He needs to be a little bit better. I did like his commitment to defense yesterday, though. And that's the biggest question mark. It was the question mark when he went into that role. He's answered it as well as he possibly could be expected to as a non-defensive wingback playing wingback, and he's going to have to keep raising his game in the postseason.
Katie Weaver wanted to talk Emerson Heineman. He was solid, got in good positions, but the final ball's been lacking. Seemed to be cautious when a splitting ball could work, then miss easier chances to create. DeBoer obviously rates him. Do we see him start postseason as a cautious play? Hashtag Overreaction Monday.
Sometimes. I think against New England he will. I wonder if he would start in the next one, because I think the decision is between Pitti, Barco, and Heineman. Heineman is the best defensive option out of those three. I think Barco's next, and then Pitti is the worst defensive option out of that. But in the final third, Pitti is the best option to get you goals and assists. Barco's next, and Heineman's next. So it kind of depends on what you want. Barco can go either way with it. Pitti gives you more attack, and Heineman gives you more defense. Heineman can give you an attack, don't get me wrong, but he's more of a complete midfielder as opposed to Pitti, who's more of a attacker. And that's the decision you're just going to have to make. Can you go with three attackers, or do you need that extra attacking midfielder in the mix? I thought Heineman should have done more yesterday. Honestly, I felt like he had more opportunities to make things happen than he actually produced. And he's getting to keep a spot. He's going to have to give you more.
Vine City's also asking, Atlanta United is a teens super club. Question, are they a super club for the 20s? LAFC, the New Yorks, and Miami will battle for super club status. I want to see a good showing in the playoffs, good management in the postseason.
They should be a super club, period. I mean, it's I think when you get to that status, like, it's hard to lose it. And I think Atlanta is that in MLS. Now, Miami, you can have more super clubs. I think it's not like there's a finite number of super clubs. I think that's the key here, is that it's not like somebody loses their status and somebody else gets it. I believe that by the end of the 20s, you will have Atlanta, Miami, the 2 LA clubs, New York City, Toronto as your super clubs. Clubs that are going out and spending big money, clubs that have huge expectations every year, clubs that are winning trophies on a regular basis, and are just at a different level than the other teams in the league. I think Chicago wants to be one and has the makings of one. Seattle was one, and Seattle might be one that is not a super club anymore because I think the league has went to a different level in spending. And yep. Seattle said that. I'm not saying it for them. They've said, like, look, we used to be the biggest spenders, and now we're not. So can they be that? I don't know. I think Portland can be a very good club. I don't know if Portland will be a super club. I mean, there's other Montreal, I think, could be a super club, but they can't get it right. The Red Bulls choose to be a different kind of club, and that's their choice, which, I mean, has worked. They've won a bunch of supporter shields. It's not like they've been bad. They haven't won MLS Cup, but they've been successful in their mission. DC was a super club a long time ago. I don't know if they can get things right to be a super club anytime soon. Vancouver, I don't know what their ownership situation is. I don't know, like, financially where they're at. I feel like they could be. I don't know if they will be. Cincinnati, Nashville, St. Louis,
Houston.
Austin. Well, no, Houston's separate. The ones I'm grouping right now are new clubs that I don't know if they have the wherewithal to be super clubs. Right. Houston, I don't think, has the money to be a super club. Dallas is a different kind of club. I think Houston has the surroundings that they can be a bigger club, but I don't know about a super club. So I think you can have 6 easily, and a couple more that are really close. I mean, Sporting Kansas City is another one that's like a Portland. They can be right there, but maybe not quite the same. Like, you're not going to spend the same way. The expectations probably are not going to be the exact same. It's interesting to see. But, yeah, I don't think Atlanta loses that status. I don't think Atlanta spends less. I don't think Atlanta lowers the expectations. I don't think any of those things happen. I think, if anything, Atlanta keeps pushing, and Miami and LAFC and others coming in motivate Atlanta to do even more.
James McClatchy. DeBoer has now been with players for a full season. He's now seen every team in the league. Seems an advantage no one is talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing Tata Martino went through. He was better in 2018 than he was in 2017 because he knew what to expect. You know, it's not even so much just the scouting part of it, of knowing the team, seeing the teams, knowing the players. It's knowing what the league is all about, knowing what the league is like, knowing the effects of travel, knowing the effects of that stuff on your body, because you can do all the research you want, but until you go through it, until you're getting on that charter plane coming back from somewhere, until you're getting on that commercial flight going across the country, until you're dealing with the effects of it on the training ground the next day and how it just saps your body, and until you're dealing with that stuff, you don't know. So, and then you had the increased unknowns this year of dealing with CONCACAF and going on an Open Cup run and managing that alongside a league schedule and the injuries. So, yeah, I think Frank DeBoer will be better in year 2 than he was in year 1. That's generally typical. I mean, I think any manager in the world, the second year should be better than the first. If it's not, there's a big problem.
And you went 20, and you've gone 26-14-4 in your first year so far.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, and some people will say, like, well, some of those are in the Open Cup against lower division teams. Sure. But you still won a lot of your games in 2019. And you got 2 trophies, and you got more games coming. You know, you could see a scenario where 26 wins, if you win MLS Cup, you're going to have 30 wins. That's insane.
Yes.
That's an insane calendar year to win 30 of 48 matches. That's wild. And that's if you lift MLS Cup, that's what you're going to end up doing. Craziness. I don't think I'd have to go back and check this. I don't think.
Has anybody won 30 in a calendar year?
I don't think so. I don't think anybody's been near that. I'll have to go back and look, but I don't think anybody's been near it. Maybe Dallas in 16 when they did the Open Cup Supporter Shield double, but then they didn't go far in the playoffs, so that's going to take some out, and they didn't have CONCACAF. That's a good one. I'll have to go back and check that. I don't think anybody's done it. Now, again, Atlanta's got to run the table to do it. They've got to win MLS Cup to do that. Win 27 would be over New England. Win 28 would be over Philadelphia or the Red Bulls. Win 29 would be in the Eastern Conference Final. And win 30 would be MLS Cup. But that's what could happen if they get there. It's wild.
Five Stripe Daily. How long until Joseph enters the conversation as captain after Parkey? Knife in the teeth, spiritual leader of the team, forward-thinking hair progressivist, has a statue in the works and is our talisman of the league. Seriously, I think Joseph has a legit shout.
I just want hashtag hair progressivist to be on something because I didn't even know that was a thing. And Joseph absolutely is a progressive hair man. Always on point with it. I think it's a possibility, and that's actually crossed my mind more and more over the last few weeks. You see it sometimes. I mean, it's not a situation where typically you see the leading goal scorer become the captain. It happens, but it's not maybe the most common. But there's some times where a player just is that big of a personality and that big of an impact on a team that they have to wear the armband. Joseph could wear the armband and be just fine. I don't think Joseph needs the armband. I don't know if he wants the armband. He might. If he does, then you have a conversation on your hands. I don't think he needs it to be the leader of this team and to be a important leader in the group. But if he had it, he's doing all the things that you would want a captain to do. So, wouldn't shock me. I think he's in the conversation along with anybody else. I do agree with Michael Parkhurst from the Benny and Sal podcast that if Jeff Larentowicz is back, I think he is the captain next year.
I'm looking forward to seeing how that evolves. We've had a lot of folks discuss their expectations and whether they've been met or what they're looking at this year. We've had a lot of folks chiming in on that this morning. That's been really cool.
Well, let's hit a couple of those real quick, and we'll just kind of burn through them because there's no right or wrong answer with this. This is just a kind of a question wondering what it is. I had a interview yesterday, and if you haven't listened to it, it's not too much about the game yesterday, a little bit, but more about Roberto Rojas and his perceptions of Atlanta and Atlanta United from afar. He was in Atlanta yesterday for his first Atlanta United game. You'll know Roberto from his coverage of the Miguel Almiron transfer and the South American game as a whole. Great follow on Twitter. Make sure you're following him and go check that interview out. But it kind of struck me with that conversation about, you know, the expectations being so high and all the chatter about every result, whether good or bad or indifferent. And yeah, a lot of times the overreactions. It does show how passionate the city is for the team. And it's a good thing as a whole. Can it become a bad thing? Yeah, I think you see that sometimes. It hasn't been the case here at all, even when the reactions have been, I think, more on the over side. It hasn't been a bad thing. But do you see a passionate fan base get toxic at times. Go ask Orlando about that one, but other clubs too. I mean, look at Manchester United right now. It's been seasons of struggle, but yeah. I mean, Manchester United, anything that happens, it's like, blah, 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 rabble, rabble. Everybody's freaking out.
You're not Sir Alex, rabble, rabble.
No, never will be. Here's some of the expectations. Ricky Ricardo said, my postseason expectations are just to look good no matter how far we go. I thought last year we could get past NYC. I was not sure about Red Bulls, but after that 3-0 first leg, winning MLS Cup had to happen. This year, I feel I can see the path to MLS Cup. Kyle Soto said, going into the season, I wasn't expecting much. We all knew the loss of Almiron Tata would be big, so I expected this season to be a transition season. Winning 2 trophies already has blown me away. I don't think I'll feel disappointed if Atlanta doesn't win the Cup. Percy Herrera said, season could end today, and I'd be 100% happy with the CONCACAF qualification. Already a successful season in my eyes. Winning the East and then a shot at MLS Cup would be the icing on the cake. This is the thing. Like, there's nothing about, right, wrong, indifferent on these. I think it's cool to see the nuance to it. That's what I'm excited to see more build on. It's not just win everything or, it's a failure or, it's only MLS Cup. I think the excitement of qualifying for CONCACAF again, the excitement of an Open Cup trophy, the excitement of the Campeones Cup win, having true meaning is really cool. Kefsey said, for MLS Cup, I expect a first-round win for Atlanta. Second round could be tricky. And don't see an LAFC NYC FC final. So if we survive Red Bulls Philly, there's a good chance to host. Already impressed with Open Cup and wins over Club America and Monterrey, success and more. Michael Ruiz said we won U.S. Open Cup and Campeones. Great effort overall. As far as this postseason, we should get to the Eastern Conference final at minimum. I'm totally with him on that. Katie Weaver, conference final at least because team is too talented to not get there. But the single-game format's a wild card. That said, I already think this season's a success. Big crowds, trophies, records, overcoming injury, new coach transition, but always should feel team can win MLS Cup. I think that's the key. Katie put it in the right way. It's you should always, if you're going to be a super club, if you're going to be Atlanta United, you should always feel that the team can win MLS Cup. That's the perfect way to encapsulate it for me. They should always feel like they can go and do it.
Yep.
And I think this year they can. They should feel that way. But they have to be afraid of every opponent in the Eastern Conference, even New England. They have to worry about that game. We saw it yesterday. New England can hurt you. They're going to give you opportunities if they play in the way that they did yesterday. But they can get opportunities themselves, and they have players who don't need a lot of build-up. So every opponent provides a threat. It's more even in the East than maybe you'd like, but this team should feel like it can win MLS Cup, and that should be an expectation. I don't think it's a failure if they don't. That's kind of where I'm at this point, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, but I think that Katie has phrased it the best way. You should always feel that your team can win MLS Cup. You should always feel that way, that confidence in what you've seen with your team, whoever it is. You should always have that confidence. If you don't have that confidence, then you're kind of like, eh. But going into a postseason tournament, you feel like you've got a shot to win. There are fans, I'm sure, in other markets who aren't as confident. But here in Atlanta, with the past 2 seasons, defending champ, getting through the season, getting healthy, coming in, I would say, on an upswing, you should always feel that you should have that kind of a vibe going in. No matter what you go through in the regular season, you get into the postseason tournament, you always have that vibe that, yeah, I think we could do this.
Yeah, I think it's the difference between a big club and not. You know, a big club can have a poor year on the table, but they should always feel like they can win MLS Cup. With the playoff format, the LA Galaxy have shown that in the past. I think the Houston Dynamo, when they were a big club, like they were the epitome of that under Dominic Kinnear. Regular season might be meh, but when you got into the postseason, you always feared the Dynamo because they were a big club at that time. The Seattle Sounders have been that. When they were bad regular season, had to make the late charge in, and then they're a beast in the postseason. So that feels to be, that's a good way to define the bar. I like that. Daniel Price, a couple more reactions to just where the season is, what it's been, expectations and such. Daniel says, I'd prefer that we win the Cup for Parky's sake, but overall I would say that this season was a success. All that mattered was that we made it back to CONCACAF Champions League. MLS Cup would be icing on the cake, to be honest. Four-card, this is another fair one, I think. Four-card says, winning every home playoff game is a fair expectations. But this season is already a success. I still get giddy thinking about having a successful hometown soccer team. You get a playoff match at home, you should expect to win it. That's absolutely fair. And if you don't, it doesn't make the season a failure, but yes, it is a disappointing way for it to end in a playoff loss at home. That's a very key way to define it. And that's where the expectations can change. If you win your first two, and NYC loses to, I think Toronto has a better chance to beat them, and then you get Toronto in the Eastern Conference Final, then your expectation has went from getting to the Eastern Conference Final to getting to MLS Cup. If you go on the road in the Eastern Conference Final to NYC, it's a different expectation than if you get a chance to host it. That's another very fair way to put it. Eric Hunter, as we try to get through the rest of these, Eric Hunter says, playoff expectation, handle 2 home matches, go into NYC with a knife in our teeth, and let the chips fall where they may. The pressure is on them at home. Same if we get to LA to try to defend. A loss at home makes a very good season just a good one to me. I wouldn't quite go that far, just my opinion, but I get it. It does change it if you end it in a loss at home than if you end it in a loss on the road. That's fair. I don't think it takes the season overall from very good to good, but it puts a damper on it.
Yeah, and so no, I mean I'm right there, and I like Chandler Creel's confidence that he exudes in his, even though he admits being a little selfish. He says mainly because I know we can't. That's how he ended his run, but mainly because I know we can't. That kind of confidence is permeating through the fan base a lot, I see.
Yeah, Chandler said, keeping in mind that we were dead last in the East 6 months ago, fans were calling for Frank de Boer's head. Atlanta United has already exceeded my expectations for the season, but he expects to reach the final because he knows that they can. It depends on where that Eastern Conference final is. I think if it is at Yankee Stadium or Citi Field, it might be it's definitely trickier than if it's at home and if you're playing Toronto. Joe Bost said, this team has exceeded my expectations given the first month plus. 2 trophies and finishing second in the East. Who would have predicted we would be in this place? Nobody. I think we have to get to the conference final. I agree with that. I think that's fair. Yep. Shiva says, so let's say for some odd reason we can't get past New England. How would you rate the season? I still say successful because to me anything can happen in a one-off game. That's a good one because that would be a really disappointing way for it to end.
Right.
I think it's hard not to say that the season was successful because you won the Open Cup, because you're back in CONCACAF, because you won Campeones Cup, because you finished second in the East. I think successful is still the word I would use, but yeah, it's a different type of just reaction overall if you lose to New England. The 90-minute format, I do agree, it invites chaos, and you're going to see somebody lose a game that they absolutely should not. It's going to happen. You don't want it to be Atlanta, but it's going to happen because it's 90 minutes. Anything can happen. It's a cup game. It's like the Open Cup. You see lower division teams knock off bigger teams all the time in the Open Cup. That's basically what you've created here. So it's different.
And yes, it is different. So for me, yeah, I would say successful with a tinge of disappointment if you don't get past New England because of the one-off format, which I'm still not a fan of and will not be.
No, I'm not a big fan. Kevin from Charlotte said, what are the odds we see something totally different from Atlanta United in the first round? Frank DeBoer made a comment after the game that hinted at that as well. I think the pressure's on New England to do something different. I think Atlanta could go with the same 11 and play in a more defensive way if they have to. But I think it's more likely that New England gets more defensive in the first round game than Atlanta does.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't know if you'll see a dramatic change, because that would be my expectation. With the same 11 that you had, if New England comes out, let's say team sheet comes out and they go 3-5-2, but first 10, 15 minutes it plays much more like a true 3-5-2 as opposed to a 5-3-2. And they're committing numbers forward. They're getting wing backs up high. They're flooding the attacking half, and they're causing you problems. Gressel and Merrim sit deeper, and you play more of a 5-3-2 or a 5-4-1 in response. And I think you can do that with the group you have. I'm not expecting a big change. I'm just not expecting a huge dramatic change from Atlanta. I think it's New England who has the pressure to change.
Yes, I agree. I'm right there with you.
Okay. Let's see if there's any more, because you guys have had lots of reactions today, and it is greatly appreciated. We are trying to get to all of them. Jim Lepp says, looking back, it's hard to say the season hasn't been anything other than better than what should have been expected. New manager and system, aside without its offensive talisman, international absences and the injuries, 2 trophies, arguably one of the best 3 sides. Yeah. I think it is one of the best 3 sides for sure. I mean, they finished 3rd, and I think it's hard to say that they would be outclassed against LAFC or NYC, even on the road.
Yeah, Jim finishes up by saying the emergence of Miles and Barco Joseph going on his astounding string of goal scoring, regardless of the crapshoot that the single elimination tournament at season end, the season's been a resounding success.
And that's the biggest thing, and I think Shiva encapsulated it well, and Jim encapsulates it well there too. The postseason tournament now, the postseason, it's harder for it to make a season worse in terms of the overall definition of it, because it invites that chaos. I think if you lost over 2 legs, you have a different feel than if you lose a one-off. So how much of an impact does the postseason have on the success or lack thereof of your year? I think it can enhance it. I don't know how much it can take away from the success that you've had in a year because of the new format.
Yeah.
That's how it feels going into it. Now, it could feel very different depending on how things go.
Yes.
But that's how it feels at this stage going into it.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you in that regard too. I think that if it was a 2-leg and you were outclassed, or if it was a 2-leg and it was a heartbreaker, then I think that your reaction might be a little more volatile one way or the other, as opposed to a one-off where anything can happen.
All right, we will end it with our challenge that we put out to Johannes of Atlanta United's crack communication staff, the research department.
Yes.
It was on our full-time report yesterday. We asked how many times Julian Gressel had assisted to Joseph Martinez. 19 regular season play.
So it was the under from the number that you had.
Yeah, I'd went 22. I was aggressive. But it was 19. It was 2 in 2017, 9 times in 2018, 8 in 2019. And that's regular season only. That's pretty ridiculous. And yesterday you saw it in a big way. Joseph also had 2 assists yesterday too, which can't get lost in the shuffle. It was a big win for Atlanta. They seal up the number 2 spot. They get ready for New England to come back in a couple weeks with everything on the line, as now we're in knockout territory. Win in advance, survive in advance. That's the phase of the year that we're in now, and Atlanta has a target set Michael Parkhurst set the expectation. Darren Neal set the expectation yesterday in their comments after the match. They want to lift another trophy, and they're going to have to get to win number 30 to do that. 4 games ahead. It's going to take 4 to lift MLS Cup again, and you're going to get 2 at home out of that. You can guarantee that much. If you keep winning, you're going to get 2 at home. And then after that, you're going to have to wait and see what happens. But you're in a position that if NYC gets knocked out, if LAFC gets knocked out, you'll get home games. You're next in line in the overall table. It's a pretty good spot to be in. You get some time to rest up. You get some time to prepare. You get some time to work on things and some training. You're going to be missing Brad Gazan on international duty. You're going to be missing Florentine Pogba, which is a nice accomplishment for him. He's going to be away with Guinea on international duty. You're going to be missing a couple players on the youth side as well. Miles Robinson will spend some time with the US U23s. Jose Hernandez, out of the mostly Atlanta United 2 group, will spend some time with Venezuela's U23s as they prepare for Olympic qualifying. But for the most part, you're going to have your full complement of players, and you're going to be able to work on things going into the postseason and really put in some time on the training ground and get ready for the Revs coming up here in a couple weeks. The 19th, Saturday, 3 o'clock. It's going to be on Univision. It's also going to be on Fox Sports Southeast. It's going to be on 92.9 The Game as well. Thanks, everybody, for all of the reactions today. There were so many. We went an extra half hour. Y'all are crazy. It's awesome.
Keep reacting because we're not done today.
No, we're not done today. Soccer over there at 6 o'clock. From the Brewhouse Cafe. If you want to get your Soccer Down Here scarf, your Holding Midfielders Appreciation Society scarf, you can come pick it up at the Brewhouse. We'll be starting at 6 o'clock. Nick Alifi will join us, talking all kinds of trash about the MLS playoffs, about Orlando's coaching search, the
Manchester
540 names on Orlando's coaching list that they could be going after, Manchester United's turmoil, Milan could be looking for a new manager pretty soon. We'll get Nick's thoughts on that. We'll talk about the Argentine Superliga, Liga MX. All of it is on the table at the Brewhouse from 6 to 8 for soccer over there. So until then, mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha plata.